A mouth swab or sample of spit to one of multiple popular DNA testing companies.
But what happens to your genetic information in the future? Only on News 3, Amanda Quintana shows us why some experts worry that your most identifying information could end up in the wrong hands.
Mostly like France and Germany, which I would have guessed that would be the largest one.
For Matt Rush, there's something fascinating about seeing where he comes from, diving deeper into his family history.
It shows you how these different, populations of people who are somehow linked to my DNA have migrated across the United States.
But it's not just geographical. These results show what ethnicities make him him.
You look back, maybe 3 or 4 generations to people who, are deceased, and it'll spark a story from my grandpa about a time when he was a kid hanging out with his grandpa.
Connecting him to family, some relatives he's never even met.
You get into these people who are second and third cousins and even further, and there's just, literally there's hundreds.
As a chemistry graduate student, he knows the intricacies that make up living things, but he's still amazed by his own results by simply sending his saliva to Ancestry.com. Genome testing companies like Ancestry and 23andMe are becoming more and more popular, but experts say there are many privacy concerns to think about before you send off your most unique personal information, your DNA.
The reality is that information could be used to deny access to health insurance, to life insurance, even to employment. So how it's used and who has access to it is a real concern.
UW biochemistry professor Michael Cox says the worry is that in the future, laws could change to give law enforcement or other companies access to your genomic information. Currently, there are anti-discrimination laws that protect you by limiting what your health insurer or employer can learn about your DNA. But that doesn't cover life insurance, disability, or long-term care insurance.
If you've had genetic testing that might have implications for your health, they can ask you about that. And you are legally obligated to provide it to them, or if you don't provide it and you knew it, then that can void your insurance later on.
Pilar Osorio, a law and bioethics professor, warns everyone who takes one of these tests should read the privacy policy, something Rush admits he didn't do.
Just like most people, I kind of just clicked through all the buttons until I got where I wanted to go.
But that might not matter after all, since the companies have the right to change their policy at any time.
Companies, they're always looking for more and more ways to make money, and if they find that they could monetize the specimens or the actual genetic information that they have been developing, they might want to do that.
But you should also know if a company goes bankrupt or is sold, so are their assets, your genetic information.
A lot of people are still trying to find different kinds of value in it, and so we don't know how they might want to use it in the future.
Police are already using Ancestry and 23andMe databases. In a handful of recent cases, police subpoenaed DNA to match that found at a crime scene. Some fear this could be the start of a new trend. Osorio points out in 2005, police confirmed the BTK killer was their suspect by subpoenaing his daughter's DNA from a hospital.
Whatever I disclose to the world about my genetic information, I'm disclosing something about my siblings, my parents, even my cousins, and people can use that information and have.
So biologists say lawmakers will have to catch up to science.
There's enormous potential in these technologies for doing good, but there's also potential for abuse, and those things need to be considered at the highest levels.
The scientist in Rush understands these concerns.
I wouldn't want other people having my medical records at all.
But the person made up of all these pieces of his DNA says seeing where his family comes from and being able to share that with his grandpa made it all worth the risk.
A lot of the older generations, this is something that they're super interested in, but probably don't have the means to get to. It was really cool. That was definitely one of my favorite experiences.
23andMe and Ancestry say they do not sell customer information and require a separate consent form to use data for research.
They will both only give information to police with a subpoena or warrant.